Some places are more than just haunted. They hold memories, whispers of those who came before, and echoes of those who never left. In the quiet town of Salamanca, New York, lies a building that most dare not to enter. It was once a place of healing, a tuberculosis clinic known as the Wildwood Sanitarium. But what was meant as a sanctuary quickly became something much darker. Now, for decades, people have reported strange occurrences within the walls. They hear whispers from the dead, shadowy figures that lurk just outside of sight, and the unmistakable feeling of being watched. But for Brooke, the current owner, and her mother Lori, these experiences went far beyond the rumors. You see, they lived them. Today I'm going to take you deep into the history of the haunting, the Wildwood Sanitarium, and I'm going to do it through their eyes. You're going to discover the chilling reality behind the legends and why this place, it's unlike any other. In the late 1800s, amidst the quiet woods of the Seneca Indian Reservation in Salamanca, New York, a grand Victorian structure began to rise. It was a house of healing, or at least so it was intended. This building with its imposing tower would soon be known as the Wildwood Sanitarium. But behind its welcoming facade, a darker reality began to take shape. Built in 1900 and opened as a sanitarium and bathhouse in 1906 by two visionary osteopathic doctors, Dr. John Henderson and Dr. Carol W. Perry, Wildwood promised holistic healing to those who walked through its doors. They treated ailments from addiction to alcoholism, offering therapies that was way ahead of their time: bone stretching, UV light therapy, and even electric battery baths. Now, for those of you that don't know very much about these treatments, they are significantly different than the medical practices that we have today. Bone stretching, for instance, is a method used to correct skeletal issues, and they would literally stretch and pull the bones. Now, that's a procedure that was probably as painful as it sounds. Then there was UV light therapy, and all they would do was expose patients to ultraviolet light. Practice based on the belief that you could cure most skin conditions as well as boost overall health. And then there was the electric battery baths, where patients would sit in tubs while low electrical current would pass right through the water. It was thought that maybe it would stimulate healing, but often it just resulted in more pain than relief. But despite these ambitious and sometimes controversial methods, the doctors at the Wildwood was committed to their vision of holistic healing. They were pioneers, after all, driven by the deep belief in the body's ability to heal itself with the right guidance. Mr. Henderson, a man of faith as well as medicine, believed that he was not just healing the bodies, but also restoring the souls. While Dr. Perry, passionate and relentless, saw the Wildwood as a chance to prove the value of his methods to a very skeptical world. Now, their dedication, it came at a very personal cost. See, both men, they sacrificed most of their personal lives, consumed by the demand of their patients as well as the pressure of running a very innovative facility. Dr. Henderson's long hours and the stress of his dual role as both a healer as well as a reverend, they began to take a toll on his personal health. And as for Dr. Perry, the relentless pursuit of medical breakthroughs may have led him to push the boundaries of what was safe. Experiments that were as risky as they were revolutionary. Whispers of unusual deaths and failed treatments began to circulate, though they were never officially recorded. Some patients, they left Wildwood sicker than they had arrived, their conditions exacerbated by the very treatments meant to cure them. It was said that Dr. Perry, in his desperation to prove his methods, may have taken risks that no one else dared to take. And yet their dreams of recovering renewal, it would soon be overshadowed by something much, much darker. By 1923, Wildwood would be forced to change. See, there was a rampant spread of tuberculosis, an illness that claimed the lives of thousands. It turned a once promising sanctuary into a place of suffering and despair. No longer a haven for those seeking holistic cures, it became a tuberculosis clinic. Oftentimes these patients, they would come in weak and desperate, and they were subjected to very harsh treatments. They'd be forced to stand in the freezing cold. There was a belief that that exposure might cure them. The doctor's once gentle hands now administered the cruel reality of time, a reality that many of them would not survive. As the years would pass, the Wildwood would continue to operate. That's until 1941. That's the year that both Dr. Henderson and Dr. Perry would pass away from heart problems. Perhaps the final price for their relentless dedication. Now, after their deaths, the building would be repurposed yet again. This time they were converted into apartments, changing hands through various owners through the years. But no one stayed very long. See, rumors began to spread. Whispers of ghostly apparitions, strange noises, and the overwhelming sense of dread. Now, some say the hauntings began when the very first patient died within those walls. But others believe that it wasn't the patients. They believe that it was the very sacred Native American lands that the house was built on. And then there's those who claim that there's the lingering presence of Dr. Perry and Dr. Henderson that's still tending to the lost souls of their patients, unable to let go. Now, the property would change hands yet again in 2017, and this time the Wildwood would repurpose itself in a way that many would not see coming. See, in 2017, the Wildwood, it was open to paranormal investigation teams, and the evidence that they got, it was unbelievable. There had been visitors that had reported shadows that would dart from one side of the hall to the next, disembodied voices whispering in rooms long abandoned, and a chilling presence that seems to watch from the dark corners. In one room, known as Tommy's room, investigators, they have felt invisible hands that pushed them. In another, Linda's room, the very air seems alive, manipulating equipment and leaving those who enter with an overwhelming sense of unease. But who, or perhaps what, still lingers within the walls of the Wildwood Sanitarium? Could it be the spirits of the doctors and the nurses who once worked non-stop? Maybe it's the souls of the patients that never found peace. Maybe it is just the land itself, a place where the boundary between the living and the dead is paper thin. Now, some people within the town speak of strange occurrences that happen not just within the walls of Wildwood, but throughout the surrounding area. Could the sanitarium's influence extend beyond its property, seeping into the very fabric of the community? There are whispers of other haunted sites within the town, and some believe that the spirits of Wildwood have roamed the town for years, their energy felt far and wide. Now, for the people of Salamanca, Wildwood is more than just a haunted house. It's a part of their identity, a reminder of a past that refuses to be forgotten. But history's not just found in old documents and faded photographs, it's alive, etched in the very fabric of places just like Wildwood. Now, to truly understand the haunting here, you got to listen to those who have walked the halls, those who have felt the presence, and those who have become a part of its story. See, it was this very sense of history, of something deeply embedded in the walls that drew Lori to Wildwood. She wouldn't understand just how much the house would reveal to her and just how much it would change her life forever. Now, Lori couldn't explain it, but the very moment that she laid eyes on the house, she was captivated. It wasn't just an interest, it was an obsession. Something about Wildwood had latched onto her thoughts and they had refused to let go.
When I first saw it, the first day I saw it, I could not stop thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And I thought, there's a reason for this. So that's when I ended up purchasing it, because I'm like, there's got to be a reason behind it.
Now, the decision to buy the property, it wasn't an easy one. You see, Lori wasn't wealthy, and purchasing the Wildwood would mean that she'd have to empty her savings, her checking account, risking everything. But you see, the thought of letting it slip away, that was unbearable.
The owner actually called me the one day, and he's just like, hey, are you interested in buying it or not? Because if you're not, I'm going to list it with a realtor next week.
Now, faced with the possibility of losing the house, Lori knew she had to make a decision. The thought of it being listed with a realtor and the price soaring far beyond her reach kind of forced her hand.
I had to make the decision, and I thought, oh my God, if he lists it with a realtor, the price is probably going to go up quite a bit. I'm like, yeah, I got to decide now. And I decided to do it. Wiped out my whole checking account, savings account, everything.
Yep.
But what was it that compelled her to take such a leap? What made this house worth risking everything that she had? Even Lori's husband questioned her decision. The house needed so much work, and the idea seemed, on the surface, to be irrational. I think many people would have just walked away, possibly regretting their decision.
My husband just looked at me. He's like, what are you, crazy? Look at all the work that he's done with this house.
Yeah.
Like, how are we going to do this? And I'm just like, I don't know. It's just, for some reason, I have to buy this place and save it.
Now, as for me, I believe that Lori did not just purchase a property. I believe that she answered a call. Deep down, Lori believes that also. You see, she believes the place wanted to return to its roots, to become again a sanctuary, a place for healing. And Lori felt like she was the only one that could make that happen.
I don't know. I think the spirits just really felt that attraction to us, and they knew that we would fix the house up and do what we needed to do with it. Because I feel like it was apartments at one time. It doesn't want to be apartments. It wants to be a place of healing. It wants to go back to that. And it knows that we're going to keep it going as that.
And now, with everything on the line, Lori and her family, they took the task of restoring the Wildwood Sanitarium, not just as a house, but as a place with purpose, a place where the past could be honored, and a place where the spirits could finally find some peace. Now, with the keys of the Wildwood in their hands, Lori and her family, they faced the daunting task of bringing the house back to life. You see, the building, which was neglected for years and needed extensive work, not just in preserving the structure, but in honoring its history.
I mean, we've definitely done a ton of work to this house. I mean, actually, so we're in the kitchen right now in the room above us. We joke around and we call it the moat room, because when we bought the location, it had like a giant pool on the floor and it had a tarp on the ceiling and no roof above that. So all the water, when it rained, collected into this funnel onto the floor into a pool of water, and we had to take buckets and everything. We would spend the night here if there was thunderstorms and take the water and throw it out the window.
Lori and Brooke uncovered discoveries of the building's former life. They found out that the basement once housed a morgue, and the third floor, it was a very important part of its history, as it held the doctor's offices. Now, when they would discover these things within the home, it would kind of change the game plan to a degree. You see, it was no longer about restoration. It was about preserving the historical elements, not just as relics, but as living parts of the building's identity. And if you've ever watched a television show or Perhaps you've restored an older house yourself. You know that there's a certain series of challenges, and this is a structure that had been neglected for years and years and years. And with every step forward, it almost felt like it was 2 steps back. Now, for Lori and Brooke, it wasn't just about fixing walls and replacing fixtures. It was about respecting the stories that was embedded within the very fabric of the building. And as they would restore that building, they would make discoveries that kind of made them rethink the property in general. By that, what I mean is this is a house that was supposedly built in the year 1900, yet they found square nails that was embedded within the walls. They found original gas lighting fixtures. It changes the perspective of when the house was actually built. It also changes the perspective of the lives that may have been found within its very walls. Now, while they was going through the process of restoring the property, it was not just the physical work that kept Lori and Brooke on the edge of their seat. You see, paranormal activity kind of became the norm, reinforcing their belief that the spirits of Wildwood was still very much present. These experiences confirmed what they had felt all along. The house was still alive with the energy of the past. But you see, for Brooke and Lori, their connection to the house was far beyond just the physical world. See, both mother and daughter possess a unique sensitivity to the spiritual world, an ability that shaped their lives and ultimately their approach to the Wildwood. Now, Brooke's journey, it began very early in life. As a child, she could see spirits, an ability that would lead her to attend a school for mediums when she was just a teenager. It was here that her path into the paranormal world, it would truly begin. From giving readings at conventions to attending ghost hunts with her mother, Brooke honed her abilities, even as everyday life began to pull her focus in many different directions. Now, here's the thing, Lori has these gifts too. In fact, I believe that this is something that runs in the family, passed down from mother to daughter. You see, for them, seeing spirits, it wasn't something to fear, it's just an everyday part of life. Together, they've encountered spirits in many forms, some peaceful and, well, let's just say others a little bit more unsettling. But through it all, they've maintained a deep respect for all the different energies that have surrounded them. Now, some of the first stories of Brooke's supernatural gifts started when she was just 2 years old. She saw the spirit of her uncle who had passed away long before she was even born.
I just saw this man fly through my window and told me not to be scared because I was camping for the first time.
When she had saw my brother, I mean, at the time, he had been gone so long that I never talked about him. So she didn't even know I had a brother. She didn't know his name, and she came out with his name, everything, and I never talked about him. So she didn't even know he existed.
Now, throughout her childhood, Brooke's ability to see and communicate with spirits, it was both a gift as well as a challenge. There were moments of fear.
But there was instances I definitely did get scared. I mean, I remember being young and going to an investigation with my mom up in Buffalo, and I saw this woman and she kept telling me that she was murdered. And then I saw her get stabbed in the face and her face was all bloody and everything.
Now, growing up in a household where spirits were a regular presence wasn't always easy. But Lori, raising a child with Brooke's abilities, it meant navigating what most people never see. You see, spirits just don't appear in haunted houses or old buildings. They were everywhere, even in the most regular of places.
It wasn't that easy growing up with her seeing spirits everywhere. I mean, even at her bus stop, she had to be careful, when she went to school, because she couldn't just throw it out there that she was seeing these things and stuff. She'd come home and she'd be like, "Mom, there was a man in my social studies class and he's there every day and he sits at my desk and he's telling me that he was in Vietnam and how he was eating bologna sandwiches all the time. The teacher has it all wrong. She doesn't have it right. That's not the way it happened," whatever, and she's, There were a lot of times like that. Come to find out that the school building was something else other than a school before it was a school.
Yeah,
so
it used
this
to be
man was still hanging out there.
Yeah, that school actually used to be an old psychiatric hospital. So there was wild things there.
Just all kinds of things like that.
The spirits that Brooke saw, they were not figments of her imagination. They were echoes of the building's past, still lingering and still wanting to be heard. But the school, it was not the only places where these experiences occurred. There was one haunting incident that Lori will more than likely never forget. She and Brooke was driving home from a movie one evening when they both saw a young man wearing a hoodie jump off of a bridge.
There was one time when we went to go see a movie and we were driving home, and both of us saw this young man wearing a hoodie jump off a bridge, and we had to pull over, and the two of us literally sat there for 45 minutes and cried because we saw this man. We both saw him.
Yep.
Both mother and daughter had seen the same thing. A man doing the unthinkable right in front of them. But when they looked again, the man was gone. They had witnessed something that no one else would have seen. A spirit reliving a very tragic moment over and over again. Now, these experiences, they were intense and they were painful, but they did become a part of Lori and Brooke's everyday life. See, they weren't just passive observers to the spiritual world. They were participants, deeply connected to the spirits around them. And it was because of this connection that it would make their journey with the Wildwood Sanitarium so profound. You see, they understood the spirits was no longer just entities. They were remnants of lives once lived, stories that were waiting to be told. Now, I know I've painted everything within the Wildwood Sanitarium as sounding very friendly and peaceful, almost heartwarming. But not everything is friendly or peaceful there. Now, while some spirits may simply be the echoes of the past, there is something much darker lurking within the shadows. It's something that's left even the spirits themselves fearing what it is. A presence confined to the addict, known only as the Thing. Now, no one truly knows what the Thing is or even where it came from, but Brooke has her own theories. See, the story begins about 3 years ago. It was right after Halloween during a public ghost hunt. At night, a woman attended, and she was acting kind of strange throughout the evening. Now, while her behavior was odd, it wasn't until the end of the night that things truly took a very sinister turn. Now, after the hunt had ended and most of the people had left, the woman stayed behind to speak with Brooke and her team. You see, she revealed that she had been experiencing a very intense haunting in her very own home, so severe that she would go to Wildwood in hopes that maybe she could find some answers. But as the night wore on, it became very clear that whatever had been haunting her, it didn't stay at home. It had followed her to Wildwood.
And I really think whatever she had in her house, she brought with her and dumped off here. Because ever since then, there's been this thing in the attic. And the whole night was so strange because they were saying very things that were just out of character. Like really just being nasty to people. And then we did an Estes session in the basement. And they were talking about there was a snake in the group and just weird stuff. And they were talking about the devil and that there was a snake in the basement and like all this weird stuff.
And then in the midst of all the chaos, something truly bizarre happened. Church music. It started playing on the spirit box. It wasn't even Sunday. There was no logical reason for it to even be there. But the message was clear. Whatever had entered the Wildwood was not welcome, even by the spirits who had long called this place home. Now, as for now, the thing remains in the attic, a malevolent force that even the spirits themselves, they fear. Now, it's important to remember that even though there's this dark, shadowy entity that's within the attic, many of the spirits, they're not hostile. In fact, Wildwood is a place where the past and the present meet, where history is alive, and where the spirits of the past, they continue to interact with the living. And mostly in a very positive way. Now, I'm sure this will absolutely shock nobody based on the story that we've told thus far, but the Wildwood Sanitarium has attracted numerous, and I mean numerous, paranormal investigation teams over the years, each one bringing their own expertise and their own curiosities. Their findings, they've added to the building's very mysterious reputation. They found everything from unexplained cold spots to shadowy figures that's captured on video. And the evidence collected by the investigators, they align with all of the experiences of both Brooke and Lori, further validating their claims of paranormal activity. Now, many investigators have reported EVPs, also known as electric voice phenomena, where disembodied voices, they seem to speak through the static. Now, these voices, often faint but unmistakable, have been analyzed and discussed by experts in the field. And then there's even more unsettling encounters like sudden drops in temperature, the feeling of being watched by an unseen presence. Now, one thing that I found extremely interesting when I was talking to both Lori and Brooke about the house was the numerous groups that would come in and how they would leave with something far more than just ghostly encounters. They would leave with something that many would question, especially when going to a ghost house. You know, it's not uncommon for investigators to come and feel some form of anxiety, some form of unease. Heck, just living everyday life, sometimes we feel that way. Life is not always comforting and easy. But many of these people, when they leave, they say that they feel almost like a warmth. They feel a sensation as though the house is almost embracing them and offering them the same holistic care that it provided over a century ago. In fact, one visitor shared with Brooke how they had been struggling with severe anxiety. And then when they arrived, they would feel like a wave of warmth that would wash over them during the night. And Lori talks about the same thing. In fact, she told a story about how she was giving a tour and there was an older gentleman, and she noticed that a spirit followed him very closely.
I had an older fella that actually came for a history tour. I just kept looking at him and I saw this man following him around, and I just kept doing the history tour, and I thought, who is this guy that keeps following me around? But then I made him sit down before he left, and I'm like, okay, you need to tell me who the older gentleman is that keeps following you around. And he looked at me, he's just like, my dad? I'm just like, yeah, that's him. And then I got to talking to him for a minute. I'm like, he was a mechanic, wasn't he? Because he's talking about fixing things, and he showed you how to fix things. And he's glad that, you have his tools and you keep doing him what, he taught you what to do and all this stuff. And he got the biggest grin on his face, and he literally cried. Yeah. Because he's like, oh my God, I always feel like my dad's following me around. I'm like, well, he is. Yeah. And I'm like, it came you to come here for me to tell you that he does follow you around.
You see, Wildwood is not just a place of spirits in the past. It's a bridge between the living and the dead, where messages of love, comfort, and healing are exchanged. You see, Wildwood is a house of opposites, a site where darkness and light, they both coexist, where the past reaches out to the present. But through it all, the house remains a sanctuary, offering peace and healing to those who seek it. It's a place where the spirits find rest and where the living can connect with the energies that continue to watch over this very remarkable property. But our exploration to the Wildwood Sanitarium, it does not end here. In fact, in the next coming weeks, probably 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to be releasing the full uncut interview with both Brooke and Lori. It was such a fascinating interview. We was able to have a very candid conversation about experiences, myself included. And if anything, it gave me insight into things that I've experienced myself. The interview was like an hour and 20 minutes. But absolutely amazing. You're definitely not going to want to miss that. Wherever you're listening to the podcast, if you've not subscribed to the YouTube channel, you're going to want to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you make sure you do not miss that interview. The full interview, shall I say. Also, in the description down below, I'm going to leave a link to their Facebook page. And I'm also going to leave a link to their website. If you're looking for a place that you want to tour, they do it for so cheap. So cheap. In fact, Sarah, can you provide all the information before we tap this one out?
If you're feeling brave and want to spend a night at Wildwood Sanitarium, you're in luck. The property is open to paranormal enthusiasts and those looking for a spine-tingling experience. All you have to do is book a private overnight investigation. The cost? It's only $350 for up to 6 people, with additional guests at $50 per person. You'll get full access to the sanitarium, from the attic where the thing lurks, to Tommy's room and beyond. It's the perfect opportunity to connect with the spirits and explore the mysteries within Wildwood's walls. And don't worry, Brooke and Lori will guide you through what to expect and help ensure your stay is as memorable as it is spooky. If you're ready to dive into the paranormal, head over to their website for booking details. Just remember, Wildwood is a place where the spirits are always watching, so be respectful, and who knows, you might leave with more than just a ghost story. Thanks for joining us on this chilling journey into Wildwood Sanitarium. If you loved what you heard today, be sure to hit that like button and leave a comment. It helps us continue bringing you the most haunted stories out there. And if you're into unsolved mysteries, conspiracy theories, and the unexplained, check out Deceptive Reality. Co-hosted by Bert and Nick, Deceptive Reality dives deep into the world's strangest mysteries. New episodes drop every Friday, so make sure you're subscribed there. Got your own paranormal story to tell? Head over to our website to submit your story. Your experience could be featured in a future episode of Retraced Echoes.
As I close this chapter, I want you all to remember, sometimes it's not the places that we leave that haunt us. It's the places that we carry with us. Until I see you on the next podcast, goodbye.
Tattered walls of wildwood, whispers in the night, shadows dance in corners, lost souls yearning light, echoes of the fallen, creaking floors beneath, stories old and hidden, ghostly forms we freeze. Wildwood cries for love, in the dark it sighs. Haunted hearts still beating under moonlit skies. Faces in the windows, eyes of spectral pain, yet a warmth flows gently.